necessarily.
And they did anyway.
Don't tell Diamondprox that because he thought it was. It proved not to be that effective after a couple of early ganks, and ultimately they lost out. We are onto the rift for our first game of the day. We've got Bifrost seeing if they can stake more of a claim on those playoff spaces. They're going up against the NYYRIKKI, who are still in the chasing pack.
And it does feel like this game will be for stabilization for Bifrost in their second half of the split. Of course, we know that they are stuck at 6 and 5. A loss here would put them to net even on wins and losses. And considering this team went to EU Masters, went through the play-ins, went all the way to the quarterfinals, sadly dropped out to a go rogue there, of course. This would be an important victory for them to, again, solidify their stakes on that playoffs coming into summer. But NYYRIKKI, they've already had a lot of close games. Actually, don't let that 3-8 scoreline fool you. They have taken it close against many of our top teams, and Bifrost would not want to be finally that top team which drops a win to NYYRIKKI when they have been playing quite high-level League of Legends, or at least interactive League of Legends.
Yes, absolutely. Both of these teams have been playing pretty well. I think NYYRIKKI have been playing pretty well up until they lose games,
Yes.
which is kind of unfortunate. When you look at their scoreline, you wouldn't necessarily believe me, but they've been involved in... We were talking about this a little bit when we were in the...
We were, yeah.
And we were saying, look, NYYRIKKI are part of some of the most close and exciting League of Legends games. Unfortunately, when we were discussing the ones which they've been part of, we were just mentioning games that they'd lost.
Yeah, because NYYRIKKI are always down to scrap, it feels like. They are looking for big wins across the map early on. Sadly for them, it does seem as though every time they look for the big wins, there is an equally big loss somewhere else on the map. So it means that games often do get quite scrappy, they get quite close. It does mean, though, this might be a hot take, but I would actually say NYYRIKKI are, quote me on this, the most entertaining team to watch in the NLC right now. You look at their last couple of games, last 3-4, they've had late game affairs. It does feel like NYYRIKKI always keep you questioning right up until the Nexus falls.
I think, depending on what you're looking for in a game, like a lot of our viewers will be correct. There's something about the way that Dusty think about League of Legends that intrigues me. That's like a morbid curiosity than anything else a lot of the time. But certainly they've had some players who they have got some players who have really stepped up from last split. They've got some new players in. We talk about Banderas on Monday, a little bit on Desk, a little bit on Cast about how much he's doing. And Darkling was very, very excited about the prospect of both of these top lanes. Banderas on the Fiora, Shikari on, of course, his Kennen, which he loves so much.
Yeah, this is his 11th career Kennen game, and Darkling did call that on the desk. It was one of his most played. I don't know whether he said it was the most played. It's actually the third most played,
yep.
Third most played, I believe. It's Ornn and... Heck, which one's the first one? I just scrolled off. I believe it's Ornn and Gnar is his topmost.
What a fun guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he likes to play... I mean, all of those champions, of course, are happy to be left alone on an island to a certain extent. And as we can see in the early levels, of course, Kennen, being a ranged Doran's Blade user, means that those auto attacks give you a lot of ability to clear out that wave. Bot lane though, this is very LPL tech. NYYRIKKI using the chance to push in early, the early wave control of, well, or rather the early non-existent wave control of Zeri to get themselves control over that lane, get enough gold for a cull. Aztor goes back, there's going to start scaling up into relevance earlier into the game. Once you hit 2 items on a Fellows, you are ready to fight. It also gives Gnarl a chance to just look mid, and Aero had set up that wave control to make sure that Fury was potentially in danger. So NYYRIKKI taking over the bot side of the map, which again is something that Bifrost love to have. So while this has been a bit of a weird draft from NYYRIKKI in terms of the pick order from what we were calling out, the fact that Bifrost and the fact that Diamondprox isn't down bot lane early to make a mess of things is not necessarily what we've come to expect of Bifrost early on.
And I mean, this... Oh, actually, I'm going to hold that point, because Flipper and Diamondprox have met each other in the jungle. Flipper doing a decent amount of damage.
Oh, he's in trouble now. He's actually in trouble.
A lot of trouble. The damage burning.
Big damage early.
Big smite to get himself a heal. Aero teleporting back in to maybe get involved, but Fury's also posturing, so he gets away.
That was a max damage watch out Eve, and getting that without the sleep is quite difficult. So Flipper getting a big amount of damage down early. Of course, mid lane wasn't in a position to push and roam completely into the enemy jungle. Fury not quite on the same page as Diamondprox at that point, but Lilia, we normally see it in top lane into tanks nowadays. It's been a while since we've seen it so prominently in the jungle, but Flipper, have to keep an eyes on that Lilia because it does do so much damage as we've seen.
And now clearing out those top lane, Krog, Shikari, and Banderas. Shikari having priority, just ranged into melee, making Banderas feel a little bit bad, but Fiora has enough to weather through the storm.
Yeah, but Fiora's still getting the farm, and also Flipper is still getting the farm. Got that bot lane scuttle, it's been a trade across the map, so it's not like Diamondprox get an individual jungle advantage for NYYRIKKI trying to put a little more into that bot side. What we also need to see now is you see that ward just down by that raptor pit. Keep an eye on that, because that means that you see that actually ping there from NYYRIKKI onto it, because what Lilia loves to do from jungle is take raptors, keep going for that bargain bucket, and it's so quick to kill them that Diamondprox potentially can start falling behind even without really making that many mistakes in the jungle matchup. Lilia is so just very quick to punish that, though. We'll be getting the second spawn either way. Diamondprox not going to suffer that this time. It's just something to just keep an eye on for the identity of that champion.
And of course, Diamondprox, they're giving up information where the Wukong is, even with that ward, so it's definitely worth placing down. But Flipper's going to be spotted out as Highway and Odie move all up the river. Just go on a little bit of an expedition.
So this is the first time that Bifrost get control of bot side, and Diamondprox is immediately here, and they catch Flipper.
Flipper gets a lot of damage. Sure. First blood, Odie.
And you know what we were just saying very early into that game about, hey, you know, Bifrost, they don't have control of bot side. What's happening? First reset going to NYYRIKKI. They have this chance to play around it. Well, this is why you don't give bot side that pressure. They are so practiced at playing around the opportunities they do get around that bot side of the map. Kill goes over to Odie. And this Zeri, we talked about the, I was about to say the Azor, it's just the person I relate most with this champion for the NLC, but the Aphelios. Scaling up to 2 items and becoming relevant. Zeri, very similar though. Get to 2-3 items and she becomes such a menace. Giving over that early kill after the seemingly successful work of NYYRIKKI in the early game to keep things where they wanted it. That's bad news for NYYRIKKI and a sign of life from Bifrost early on. Interactive games, we said.
Yeah, something that we want to see, because some teams do have a bit of a tendency to sit back.
50 seconds longer game times, Will.
Well, that's why. This is exactly the reason, because things are taking a little bit longer. They're a little bit slower. Of course, first dragon was taken while we were talking about that. Hex Tech, it's first dragon, so it's going to be giving a little bit of an advantage over to Bifrost.
In terms of the actual stats you get from the dragon, Hex Tech is the best by far now. It's extra 5% attack speed, 5 ability haste, and that applies to so many different champions that love using that. Mountain up next, which does mean 2 of our stronger combat souls are going to be off the table. Leaves you a chance of course, that dreaded cloud, which in this game would not be the most successful thing for either, well, rather the most important thing for both of these teams to get. But still, those individual dragons help unlock that Elder later into that game as well. So, you know, keeping an eye on it either way.
Flipper prancing up to the top side, not going to be able to find Shikari without being spotted out on a ward, and the Cannon's going to be able to push in that wave and then move away from any kind of danger. But the 2 junglers haven't had the biggest impact so far. Of course, the assist from Diamondprox on that first blood is nice, but it was really a story of a lot of champions getting involved in that one. And this is something that we haven't necessarily... This hasn't been a hallmark of these 2 jungle players this split, particularly.
No, it has felt like both these players have been facilitators in terms of their roles within these teams. And again, we talked a little bit about Bifrost and their identity, which is largely around that jungle role, actually. Diamondprox has transformed this team from spring, for better or for worse. We're yet to really see how that culminates, but there's been a lot of soul-searching is the word I used earlier for it, for Bifrost to see what they were going to do about this abrupt change in playstyles. Speaking of that, another neutral herald neutral objective rather, started up by Bifrost. They got that first one, heading up towards that herald, and I have to say, NYYRIKKI, I felt like they should have more control around bot side, felt that they should be having more chance to impact the map early on from that, because your support is meant to be a little bit more free to roam, but that one mistake around bot side already seems like it's starting to hurt them.
Whether it'll be too much of a big deal moving forward into second dragon time, this early mid-game situation is yet to be seen. Odie running away from Flipper, doesn't want to be caught out by Lilia. Abagnale just licking Highway on the way out to make sure that he knows that he's there. But ultimately, there's not a lot going on at the moment, but there are rotations.
There's vision being put down from NYYRIKKI. There's been rotations, and it feels like Bifrost, with those rotations, have, one, taken that Herald. That's a big thing, but they've also been able to protect those Raptors, which, again, are kind of a big objective for Lilia. It just helps her get that jungle advantage very quickly, very efficiently. Even with NYYRIKKI giving over that Herald, it feels like they haven't managed to get into that enemy jungle and put anything more down than just wards. So that's it from the NYYRIKKI side of things. Bifrost, however, been managing to take control of this bot side, and we haven't really talked about top lane much. This, again, has been a bit of a staple for Bifrost, keeping things on an island, keeping Shikari afloat in a 1v1 matchup, so he can affect that game later. Of course, Banderas, no stranger to that with the Fiora too.
And when you've got Shikari on a cannon, impacting the game later, going into a team fight, teleporting through most likely, throwing down that ultimate and causing all kinds of mischief. Of course, Banderas, Fiora, they set it on the desk, Monster on the side lane. Can mix it up in team fights as well if you can get a nice ultimate off and really help out your team. But when it comes to how these two players are going to interact in the late game, likely to see two very different wants.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you're looking at high damage threats, but in very different ways, and they succeed in different scenarios. Game's a little bit slow right now. We don't have a dragon for a minute. We'll see how teams set up for that. I remember, because I used to cast a lot in the university scene, there was a German university top player called Gentleman Hero, who actually, I believe, plays in Div 2 right now, Prime League, maybe.
I think he was in Prime League last I checked.
On the same team, actually, Kidasi, which is Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. He played, anyway, this is why it's relevant. He played Muramana, Fiora, and with 2 tap AD carries in fights. So it's like, oh, you're going to be split pushing. Wait, what the heck has happened to the bat line? Just pick Triforce, pick Muramana, and it would just absolutely delete someone. Of course, we've seen Banderas on a very different build with this time it looks like he's going towards Gore Drinker, or one of those Iron Spike Whip items. You saw him delete poor Silas the other day in one of their very close games, where it was the 9-kill fight, 4 on one side, 1 on the other. But Banderas looking to have an impact in this one. Aero actually a little bit in danger here. Pearl's being put down.
Lost away from the charm, but the Reptile, as you said, has been dropped. See how many plates can be gained by Diamondprox and Fury. At least 2 you've got to imagine as Diamondprox beating down on that tower. It's going to be 3 plates to the good for Bifrost as they move away from the mid lane. Dragon is up on the Rift, but NYYRIKKI are coming up to contest it.
So, Abagnale missing, Cage missing too. Oh, that's a bit of a disaster.
Side, but Abagnale's a little bit of a tanky catfish, so he should be able to waddle away.
Yeah, that's a little bit awkward. Abagnale not able to kind of walk up and play so aggressively. If you miss the Tahm Kench W, that Abyssal dive, things go very south for you very quickly. And as much as Tahm Kench is deep south and is no stranger to that, and his accent and identity, that's not really where you want to be. So NYYRIKKI had that chance to take over bot river. They've kind of given up that chance now with that Herald pushing in mid, Odie doing his own dirty work on that bot side, and Bifrost have taken this chance to not just get dragon control, but to get some extra goodies in terms of collateral and minions and plates to their advantage in the meantime.
And that dragon should be melted through pretty quickly. NYYRIKKI are in the neighborhood, but they're not necessarily looking to contest. Abagnale is just going to show his face and then turn swiftly around as the objective falls. 2 over to Bifrost. We've got a Cloud Soul, which is pretty nice for the Tom positions that we've got going on. But we've seen a lot, especially on Monday, teams taking the first couple of dragons don't always tend to grab the next couple.
This is a very LCK phenomena. We've seen it elsewhere in the globe as well, but if you are watching the major regions, that's the region which is most likely to align with this identity. It's a word we're using a lot today. In terms of giving up those early dragons and then just flipping over Elder, just making sure you're not giving over gold. And when it is something like a Cloud Drake as well, you're kind of rewarded for that to a certain extent, to just say, look, I'm not going to lose loads of kills and give up the immediate combat advantage, and rather keep things close, so when it comes down to a single cataclysmic fight, you are still within arm's reach and you can win that big team fight, which might just bring the game with it.
Abagnale clears out 1 ward after walking over it, but there's still 3 more that caught vision of him, so unable to sneak around is super lit up.
It's heck, it's the there's a certain like fallacy with this. It's like something like the survivor's fallacy or something like that. It was like in one various 20th century conflict, there was a thing where a load of bombers would come back from their bombing runs and have loads of bullets in the wings, and they thought, oh, this is where they're getting shot. We've got to put more armor on there. When actually, the ones which didn't make it back had been shot in all the areas where they hadn't been hit. So it's this weird kind of thing where you find that one ward, and it's like, oh, we found this one. Surely they will put it here again. You've missed all of the others around the map.
I mean, they've now been cleared out, so someone's doing their due diligence. I think it was Fury who decided to go in there.
There we go. He's the real aircraft engineer here. Good job,
Absolutely.
Aaron.
Fury's like, you know what? I'm going to do a bit of a check as Abagnale going to be clearing that one out.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
He might be punished for it. The knockup's good to stop the Abyssal Voyage, and Abagnale sleeping with the fishes.
He is mid lane, also under threat. That's a Wukong.
Hero's going the wrong direction to run away from this one. Nice splash over as Flipper's going to come in, but the charmed Vigar's already dead, and Flipper will be able to escape.
And this is one of the issues with specifically the Ahri versus Veigar matchup. A lot of people tout this as a kind of counter. I feel like with most Ahri matchups, and seriously watch LDLC in regards to this, they are very good at utilizing this. I feel like Ahri's matchups are more independently determined by jungle and support. Abignale tried to impact that early game, came up at level 2, couldn't find an opening, and then suddenly, actually, it's about Diamond Prox being on the enemy Raptors. Yes, falling behind a little bit, but being there to threaten Aero. So even with this matchup that they picked into, they knew that this was the matchup. They are starting to fall behind, and now Fury has himself that assist and a couple of kills over to Diamond Prox. I mean, this mid-jungle 2v2 getting a little awkward for NYYRIKKI.
How he finds Flipper and Abignale around those Raptors. As we mentioned, going into the game a little bit earlier, these Raptors are easy pickings for Lilia if Wukong is elsewhere. And Diamond Prox going to be pretty happy to trade them over as he grabs himself the second Rift Herald. Of course, no plates to be taken, but use as a battering ram to break open maybe one of these outer towers or even look inroads in the inners.
And speaking of those battering rams, has so often been the AD carries doing it for both of these teams. Got a Herald on one side, but Asdorp, he's got himself the Calibrum Crescendum, the rifle turrets, chakrams, and rifle stacked together. Means that tower damage does get absurd. They take that one down without actually having a Herald at all. Feels like maybe Bifrost have overextended, but now
as well, you know.
Teleport.
Flipper and Astor gonna have to run up river to escape this one. They've got Aero coming on down for support, but nice ultimate coming on down. That's gonna stun up the Tahm Kench. He goes low, has some great to play with. Flipper dives back into the fight. The box is gonna catch one. It's Rakan.
Oh!
Deleted by Aero on the Vigar. Abignale caught out now, and the free fire from Oni will take down 2. Looking for more as Astor flashes away. Aero puts up another box. Won't be able to stop the flash though, as Fury follows him over. Charms and slays as Bifrost take the fight.
The mobility is so hard to disengage from if you're NYYRIKKI. Bifrost, when they find a winning scenario, they have all of the tools to continue on the fight. Poor Veigar could only waddle away so quick. You can get away with a cage, but you've only got one of them. That really felt like the turning point of that fight. Bifrost, they go towards that Herald. They know the cross map is coming in, but they have themselves a plan set down. Actually, very impressive phase of play, and now Banderas caught out on the wrong side of the map. Gonna have to try and outplay this one.
Diamond Prox is found, and the flash comes through from the Fiora. Will he be able to get over the wall? Nice parry, but it's not going to do any stunning, only slowing as Fiora walks right into the loving embrace of the Ahri. It's a shutdown. It's not shutdown, it's killing spree for Diamond Prox.
And this has been a bit of a collapse from NYYRIKKI, where they see the Herald's going down, they think the cross map's coming through, but Bifrost are the step ahead. They have themselves teleport advantage, they use it well. The first phase of this fight looks pretty promising from NYYRIKKI because you have that cannon ult go down, but it's not great damage going onto Valios. It's basically only damage onto the Tahm Kench, and that's not who you want to hit. Of course, we saw that earlier into the game, that W from Lilia does so much damage and comes through with the ultimate, but it's just not enough. This is the thing. Even though the first phase of the fight goes well for NYYRIKKI in some ways, they only have the cooldowns to do that once. Bifrost push the advantage, they take the fight.
And you know what we say around these parts when we see a Vigar die? Good.
I forgot about your ongoing...
You used the box twice in that fight, or the cage, or whatever it's called. Event Horizon. Dumb champion.
Yeah, I forgot about your ongoing situation with Veigar.
He's always perma-broken, and it's dumb, but it's fine because he died in that fight.
He's just a funny little dude. He's just a fun little dude. He's just trying to go about his evil way across the galaxy.
His stun is too long.
It is, absolutely right.
The cooldown is not long enough.
Not up there in... The thing about it is just like, it's just the threat of being there. It goes like, do you want to get stunned? Cage is there. It's just the threat of it, right? Speaking of it right there, gets something out from this.
Herald in bot lane, though.
Herald's down. It's the second one, of course, which Bifrost started off that big cross map with, pushing in towards that inner. Not able to take it, though.
It's going to do a decent chunk of damage, which is fine because for them it will be easy for someone to go bot lane and kind of split push away. Obviously, this team doesn't necessarily have the same kind of obvious split push when you've got Fiora on the other side, but I'm sure Shakai would have a good time against the half-elf tower.
I'm sure he'd have a... Yeah, as long as it's not shooting back. Maybe he'll need some little...
Well, they need some minions to help, obviously.
Yeah, gotta say, 1v1, towers are kind of scary. They got hands. They got hands, they got turret shots, they've got a lot of stuff.
They actually don't have hands.
Well, no, they technically... They are holding things. If you look at the stat sheet...
They have hands?
Well, I mean, they're holding like a rod. And
oh, yeah, no, he does. He has a hand.
Yeah, so there you go. Turrets have hands. They'll slap a fool for trying to 1v1 them because they do a lot of damage nowadays. Long gone are the days where you can tank up like 45 tower shots like you could do in Season 5 with Nautilus tanked top with Sunfire Iceborne. That was a time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a simpler time. when you just didn't care about tower diving.
Maokai, Nautilus, all of the good stuff. Well, for some people. See, I play top lane, but I only play ranged tops, so I'm not
Oh,
really,
you're one of those.
I'm not really allowed to talk to other top laners for fear of my own safety. You know, Quinn, Vayne are not really well respected in the top lane.
Quinn's just not really well respected by anyone for a number of reasons.
I mean, I make an effort to play Quinn mid lane just to try and absolve myself.
It's also a bit weird.
It's a bit weird, but at least that one's acceptable. Whereas NYYRIKKI, you have to kind of accept that they're starting to lose out on vast quantities of this map. Yes, there are 2 turrets apiece, but well, rather there's 2 to the side of NYYRIKKI, but they've also lost themselves 3 of their own, including that mid lane out of turret, which means once you lose that mid lane out of turret, these situations become very, very hard to stop. The vision control from Bifrost has been set up in an ironclad manner. The full court push, rather, is being set up from the blue side. Bifrost, again, this game was so important to steady the ship. Remember, coming off of a couple of losses, 6 and 5, would love to keep themselves in the positive, love to keep themselves closer and safely inbound for playoffs.
And for Bifrost, you've got to imagine that's minimum expectations after getting to the quarterfinals, the knockout stages of last European Masters. Of course, a team that came...
Crazy how the perspective has changed. Yeah,
it is. And X7 are in exactly the same position. They're also 6 and 5. They also got to the quarterfinals. NLC had some struggles in the studio.
We had a 100% quarterfinals rate. That's good enough. Yeah,
only
no one else had that.
LFL can go away. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But for NYYRIKKI right now, what do we want to see from them? Because they're being slowly choked out, it would appear.
Yeah, well, what you need to do is stop the big plays coming in from Bifrost. That's one thing. Right. A lot of it will come down to what we were just talking about. It is that vision control. Some of our teams have been exceptional at setting up vision traps. You set down that one ward, and actually someone like a Rakan can fall prey to this because he's not great at once he has been CC'd. But fishing for that next ward and just going a little too far. NYYRIKKI needs to start setting up and saying, okay, you can start to look towards that next encroachment of vision line, and we're going to punish you from that. Use that uneven amount of numbers after that point to try and push through parts of the map. It's actually something that RNG were incredibly good at MSI. It's one of the best things they were at compared to the other teams at that tournament and indeed across the world. Other teams have started to catch up in the time since, in the aftermath, but the NLC, and particularly for NYYRIKKI now, they're going to have to do a lot of their homework very, very quickly, because it feels like, for me, those vision traps, picking off someone one by one, that's going to be the big thing for them.
Always able to dive out of the Vargar cage, won't be caught out this time around. Also has got the early QSS to avoid that being a huge issue.
So this is now a very dangerous position for NYYRIKKI. Wards behind them, they pushed beyond that point. So easy to pick off, and Diamondprox is going. Where's the teleport? There it is!
Caught out and killed. He's getting some damage onto the Vargar. The rest of the team is now following up. Highway is there. Teleport coming in onto the top side. Can Shikari get here in time? Arrow goes low.
There he is!
There's the ultimate, but Arrow will be able to dance away from it. They lose one. It's Azator. That's the victim, as Oni will now skate towards the fight, having taken down his lane opponent. They will be able to take down the Catfish as well. Oni goes to the wall. He's looking for more. Flipper for the double. Arrow somehow is the one that escapes.
He escapes, and he has to be alone to tell the tale. NYYRIKKI, they push beyond their safe vision. We talked about this vision control being so important for them to get into the game. It's also such a difficult situation for them when they start to leave that shell, leave that defensive fortress of their base. It's going to lead to 4 deaths. Going to lead to a dragon presumably going after this Baron too. Bifrost explode the map, and if we were asking for a stabilizing game, one to give confidence to Bifrost fans for the second half of the split, this is certainly a way to do it.
Absolutely, and the Baron onto 5 members will help them make inroads. Normally we talk about wanting teams to take everything outside the base on Baron number 1. There's only 1 tower left. So
they're making so many inroads, they're almost Roman. They build a lot of roads. Yeah, we just
someone's going to ignore that. There's a dragon on the map.
The Roman League Championship. Home only to Bifrost.
What are you on about?
They build a lot of roads.
Well, I get that.
Well, they might be killing themselves some dragons too, different thing, and they've managed to get...
Flipper goes secure. Actually goes low. Will be secured. There's another one as Abagnale falls, and hey, you got the dragon. You denied soul, but that's a triple over to Shikari, and I don't know if they can weather this.
I don't think they can now. So many deaths, so many cooldowns used. You don't have a lot of your wave clear in that. Aphelios can have to be aero searching for a way out of this. Wave being built up towards bot side. Bifrost looking for that lethal push.
Highway's now looking for the lethal engage. Banderas is there. It's a 2v2 under tower. A lot of damage coming out from Odie, but not enough to kill the Vigar. Remember, he's got the Everfrost and is a little bit beefier than some other mages, but the bot lane, that's the wave that you talked about being built up. The tower will fall. The mid lane one might go the same way. Banderas standing strong as the only defender as Abagnale moves his way back onto the rift. This won't be a decisive killing blow unless the NYYRIKKI are caught, but 2 inhibitors will go down, and that'll put them in a very difficult position.
It's not going to be the end of the game, but it is just about as good as that clone coat in the cage. But
Ari?
Kari's just having the time of his life, baby.
Zoning ultimate, but he will catch out Abagnale as he tries to follow up. There's the cage, but won't find anyone. Flibber dancing forward, looking for a catch, but can't find Fury, as the rest of Bifrost will make their excuses and leave.
Again, the game doesn't end here, but it pretty much does in everything but the final Nexus blow. You are now 10,000 gold ahead. You sat there on Soul Point. You have the entirety of that Baron being used up. You get to reset, and this is utter destruction. There was a brief window for NYYRIKKI to leave the base, clear out some wards, get some control, maybe again set up one of those traps we briefly talked about, but even that is one heck of a dream away. You have 2 items on your mid and your AD carry. Maybe that's something that NYYRIKKI can get a turnaround burst combo onto, but what cost is that going to be at? If it's not a clean combo, you're almost certainly getting mashed on the back end.
And for that last fight wasn't even that clean. Shikari ulted pretty randomly, hitting basically no one, and it was irrelevant ultimately. 1 kill for NYYRIKKI to the good at the moment. Call out Highway once, but past that, have been unable to find very much.
Maybe another. Oh, QSS. Big hiccup. I hadn't even picked that up in the inventory, but that's the big thing that they were looking for. Looking to pick off the Rakan. You can't even do that cleanly now. You have to do it in so many different phases. You have to pick them once, get rid of the QSS, pick them again, try and look for a kill. While this is happening, the waves are crashing in.
Abagnale takes a bit of damage. Diamondprox interested in trying to take down this bottom Nexus tower. The rest of Bifrost are putting some pressure down. Fury will be the one to cure it as they break open the base. The Baron buff is now gone, so pushing will be slightly harder. But there's only 1 Nexus tower defending. 1 inhibitor tower stands strong as well. Bifrost could look for the killing blow right here, right now.
This is going to be one last chance for NYYRIKKI, but is it a good one? No. Is it going to be a fair fight? Absolutely not. That gold is making sure of that. With all the other combat stats being built up, Flipper's going!
Going for the ultimate. Gonna have to go golden as well. The cage comes up, lands on the 2. There's the QSS being utilized. NYYRIKKI is standing strong. Banderas goes in and gets the kill onto Highway. There's another kill going over as Shikari falls. He goes a little bit too deep for the team, but Odie is still alive. Fury is still alive. They're chasing NYYRIKKI away from their Nexus tower. It will go low, but it won't be felt just yet as Odie's forced to back away. Banderas returning to defend his team, and the objectives still stand.
Okay, a little bit bold there from Bifrost. Couldn't get themselves a clean engage early enough, so Flipper does the job for them. Sat at 0-4 after that fight, but this sleep gives you a little bit of hope. Manages to get the 3-man sleep. Of course, the Banshees from Fury's picked up, saves him from the same kind of fate, but it gives enough time just with the CC and the extra damage being popped through to at least get some shutdowns to the side of NYYRIKKI. They lose towers at the same time. I think that Bifrost is still happy, inching their way closer towards that victory, because NYYRIKKI, how likely is that they find as good a fight as that again? You can see the momentum bar, our analysts in the back room, in the green room, thinking this is all but a done deal, as we've been saying on here too.
But you must remember that on Monday,
yes,
this bar was doing some weird stuff. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I wonder who could have been doing any of that. I wonder who was the analyst there on Monday.
Yeah, Archer, what's he like, eh?
Oh, yeah, that guy, you know, you can never trust him.
No.
Leave him alone 1 second with the momentum meter. And he
literally just walks in.
Just can't trust him.
Staring at me.
As soon as you mention him, he's just there.
He knows,
He's a
he can hear
terrifying
me.
individual.
You can't actually hear me because, you know, we're being piped through to our analysts so they can listen to us bully them. But Bifrost are now looking to push towards the base. The inhibitor tower at the top lane is still standing, so they're not getting those double inhibited up minions, super minions, you might call them, because that's what they're called.
They are, in fact, called that.
But Bifrost are looking potentially to find this last fight. Shikari's not here, has teleport though, but could be a little bit delayed if it's a quick trigger pull from NYYRIKKI. But Abagnale goes really low, will survive with the Grey Health. The shield is there, and Odie can't find the killing blow. But Bifrost, they'll take that exchange. Abagnale, of course, is going to be able to go back, reset, get some health, which Bifrost won't be able to do.
It's the defender's advantage, being able to regen, get out to the map quicker. But what Bifrost are doing is setting up a waterfall. They're setting up the ability to go from top wave into mid wave into bot. Highway looking for an engagement, forcing the flash.
Not able to find that decisive last team fight, but as we mentioned, NYYRIKKI kind of had the perfect last chance saloon already. They defended their base. Diamondprox might be caught out here, has to go over the wall away from the cage. Will be able to do so, but Bifrost are just creating space on the top side. They're looking to try and push in and take down this inhibited tower. Damage coming on the highway.
Ult missed from Aztor, and Grand Challenge thrown down by Banderas too. This is just unrelenting from NYYRIKKI.
Next tower's gone. Diamondprox is maybe looking for the backdoor. Ending is trying to dive away from NYYRIKKI as they turn to collapse upon him. But remember, the rest of Bifrost has moved into the base as well. Nice triple knockup from the Wukong. He goes drowsy, goes low, sleeps permanently as he's taken down. But now the members of Bifrost can look to take down this inhibitor tower. NYYRIKKI actually looking to turn them away. The inhibitors have respawned. Bifrost fought off again.
It's been fought off, and Bifrost, we talked about them trying to set up these waves coming across the map, but they weren't there to help them be shepherded in, and you have multiple items on the Veigar. 3 there. Almost got the Infinity Edge onto Aztor's Aphelios too. NYYRIKKI have enough wave clear, and though it was unrelenting from Bifrost, actually flubbed the names there as I saw NYYRIKKI take down Diamondprox on that bot side. It feels like Bifrost, even though they've had this lease of life in the early game, which has been, again, something that they have done very uniquely so in this split compared to last split. In the early game, it was coin flip as everything else. This time it has been much more of a sure deal that they would make things work for them in the early game. Their late game maybe has suffered a little as consequence. Last split, Bifrost, beyond 25 minutes, they were almost unbeatable. This time they are really struggling to put this to bed.
I will temper that with that play did get them the second Nexus Tower and Dragon Soul.
It does.
So we can only critique them so much.
For sure. But then you're looking at this game and how far ahead they have been. They have struggled to close out a game which did look very, very done. And of course, it is still very, very done, but just a couple of awkward fights here and there when maybe they overreach trying to end. It's high standards to hold them to, but again, they were at EU Masters and they are looking to be up towards that playoffs, be a better version of themselves from Spring, which they currently aren't on par with the results at least. We hold them to those high standards, and NYYRIKKI holding them to account to some degree. They're not going quietly into the respawn screens. They found some ways to get those rare kills they have managed to get their hands onto. Once again, Highway being forced away from that QSS, but NYYRIKKI, they're turtling up, getting inside that Hermit Crab shell and looking for one opening, looking for one thing to try and get that turnaround fight.
They lose the mid lane inhibitor, so there's going to be a threat onto their open Nexus. The backdoor potential is there. Shikari does have teleport, but it's just keeping an eye on how Bifrost want to try and close this one out, because they were a little bit, as you mentioned, shaky on that last play. They gained some good stuff, but it wasn't picture perfect. And now they're looking to put pressure on all 3 lanes with this Baron empowered.
That W coming from Era, so much wave clear charm hits, but it's not the highest damage Ari build. It's gone for more utility, and there's no book. No Magi is involved in there too. Fury there to just shuffle in the waves. They were able to escape with their life, and Diamondprox forces the issue.
Damage coming down onto Flipper. He's going to be eaten up, but he's going to be knocked up in the belly as Banderas dives forward, gets killing spree onto Diamondprox, but members of Bifrost certainly have better health bars. Of course, there's the defender's advantage. Banderas has to go on to stay alive. Aero is deleted, but he'll take Shikari with him. Banderas got to the fountain as the damage coming in from Odie. He's free-firing. Aztor on the side can only sit and watch. He's actually going to be chased away and killed by Bifrost. Triple kill will end things up for Odie as Bifrost keep themselves at pace.
Oh, NYYRIKKI, they turtle up for a little while, but it always was the advantage.